Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that quick break. We are ready to tell you about round 2, and we're actually going to look at standings. This will cover round 1 and results before we head into round 3. So rising to the top of the standings, we have Jacob with a Teamer Delver deck, Matthew Ferrando with Green-White Depths. I know you said it was a pretty powerful combo. We've got some Dimir combo, Omnitel, Eldrazi Stompy. We really have a large selection of decks, which is something you brought up to us in the very beginning of this coverage. Are you happy with where Legacy at? Look at all these decks.
So I love the variety. I think the decks are. It's hard to say. I think they're too strong now, but I think so many decks now are really trying to just do what they want and ignore their opponent and see if that's enough. And I feel like that's something that Modern struggled with for a long time. And I definitely feel like it's kind of creeping into Legacy now.
Speaking of doing what you want, the Dominic Harvey's Green-White Depths deck, which we'll be featuring this round, is that a deck that's doing what it wants to do?
Well, I don't know. I don't even have anything specific in mind when I say that. I suppose it is. This deck does have some interaction, but it's mostly a kind of a redundant build to put out Merit Lage reasonably fast. But it does have, neither Reliquary. Any deck with neither Reliquary isn't, or at least I assume his deck has that in there. I actually don't know that for sure. But any deck with a card like that isn't inherently unfair. So I suppose I feel like that's a good thing.
Dominic will be facing off against Ryan on the 4-color Snoko deck. That doesn't feel like a deck that fits into your category of doing what they want because they have a ton of reaction. However, if what they want is just to play a bunch of broken cards, maybe it is.
Sure, but if you want to play broken cards that are like, affect the board and gain you some life and draw you some cards, I'm okay with it. Like, I think Uro is not a broken card in Legacy. It might be in Standard, but in Legacy, I think Uro is fair.
Whoa. You heard it here first. Clip that. Uro is fair. Oh, I don't know. That's a hot take.
You can't take it out of context like that.
Yes, you can. It's the internet. Have you not met the internet, Joe? I tease. So let's look at Dominic Harvey's Green-White Depths deck. There is 4 Knight of the Reliquaries, which honestly would be very surprising if there wasn't. So it was definitely a safe bet. There's, basically a ton of 4-outs, right? I'm seeing lots of crop rotations, Green Sun Zenith, Once Upon a Times, Elvish Reclaimers, different Elvish. That's a fairly new addition to this deck. Mm-hmm. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, this deck is, at least as far as Legacy is concerned, this deck is fairly new.
Right.
As Dominic, I think, was one of the people that kind of led the charge from the more established Green-Black depths into Green-White, taking advantage of neither Reliquary and probably some of the white sideboard cards. Like, we see Thalia in here. Thalia is kind of a defensive measure, but it's not really key to how the deck operates.
Okay. Well, let's keep all this in mind while we head over to Ryan's Snoko deck, 4-color. I assume the same 4 colors. Wait, I see 5 colors. I see all 5 colors, right?
It's a lie. Yeah, this is a 5-color snow deck.
I tease. There is red on the sideboard, but that's not really that surprising when a deck that plays Astrolab. It does look like we have access to red in our duels, but not in any basics, at least that I can see. This looks pretty similar to the last Snoko deck we saw. And I think maybe Jace is the difference here for me.
Yeah. There is a single copy of Jace here. Yeah, I'm not sure that Justin had that. There's a Garrick Primal Hunter in the sideboard, which is a card that I've played with in the Standard a very long time ago and had a good time with, but that's not a Planeswalker I see in Legacy ever.
Yeah, right. That's a cool one. Well, let's see if it comes up. I can't imagine it for this matchup, but it's still a pretty cool card.
I think really what we're going to be seeing here is what we're going to need from Ryan's deck are just the removal spells, Swords of Plowshares and Abrupt Decay, to kind of hold things down and prevent Merit Lage from getting to play too quickly.
Okay, so I will say our hand does not have any of those. We did keep a hand that has, some of our threats, including Oko, Jace, and Uro, some selection with Brainstorm, and one removal spell with Abrupt Decay, which I don't believe can get a land. Right? Well,
No,
and can't get Merit Lage, right?
Right. Yeah, so the Abrupt Decay is, but still being able to pick off Knight and Reclaimer definitely matters.
Ooh.
All right, that's a welcome draw. We're gonna need some lands, obviously, but we're gonna see what 1, 2, 5. We're gonna see 5 cards before we have to make our next land drop.
I have to admit, we actually kept a pretty interesting hand in terms of mana. I know that this deck loves basics and it loves mana, but a snow-covered plains into an Astrolabe Keep is pretty crazy when our hand is like Oko, Uro, Jace.
It's totally fine. These decks don't care. They have a tricolored land in play already, or really, actually, I guess it's 5-colored.
I will say I'd like to highlight we did get a deck name update on the right-hand side of your screen. It now does say 5 colors of snow. You're welcome.
Right.
Keeping us honest. Making sure. So Dominic does have, I think, probably just a 1 of Dryad Arbor. I don't imagine there's too many of that card in play. With a Bayou, tapping some green mana. Let's see what we're up to. So Green Sun Zenith's for 1. I assume this is an Elvish Reclaimer.
Yeah, that's what I'd expect to see. It could be. I mean, the other option is the Sylvan Safekeeper, as we see Ryan check for right there.
Actually, so when we were looking at the deck list, I wanted to talk a little bit about Sylvan. You say Keeper?
Safekeeper, yeah.
I'd love to see that on screen because I did not recognize that card at all.
Okay, so Sylvan Safekeeper is a 1 green 1/1, and you can sacrifice a land. That's actually kind of amusing that Ryan is checking out at the same time as you said. And here we see a different artwork version of the same card. Sacrifice a land, target creature you control gains Shroud until the end of the turn. It's in the deck to protect Merit Lage from removal.
Which right now we do have 2 swords in our in our hand. That's pretty interesting because it is just sacrifice a land, so it can be done multiple times in a turn.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So we did draw a Prismatic Vista for turn for Ryan's side. Looks like we're just trying to decide if we continue to be aggressive on our selection or if we're happy to just pass the turn here.
Yeah, this is. I mean, it's you would like to. I would like to go. Yeah, I'm totally okay with that decision. So maybe Dryad Arbor is an option too, but I would like to cast the Brainstorm off of the plains using the Astrolabe and then be able to shuffle and then play the Swords of Plowshares from the Prismatic Vista. But we actually can't do that because we probably don't want to fetch another plains if we even have another one.
I was actually going to say I just don't think we have another plains.
Yeah.
So it's funny. I was in the same conclusion. I was like, oh, we'll probably Brainstorm now, chill a bit, but we didn't have that choice. So looks like we have got that island and we're going to pass. There was a Dark Depth sacked to protect the Sylvan Safekeeping. But it was a Dark Depth, so half the battle.
Given that the land was sacrificed, I wouldn't have minded playing the other Swords of Plowshares.
On the Dryad Arbor?
Or on the Safekeeper. You could have responded. I mean, I think if we could force Dominic down even further on mana, I think that would be okay.
Okay, well, instead, the Safekeeper is getting in for that 1 point of damage. And instead, we're going to cast this Brainstorm from Ryan's side. Ooh, lots of options. Not a ton of lands, but some options.
Yeah, we have enough, I suppose. This 1 of Jace is probably not going to stay in the hand, I don't think.
And I assume unlikely to stick around on top of our deck either.
Right. I wouldn't have minded playing the swords. I guess if we're trying to hold on to the swords, that makes sense, though. I'm always in favor of trying to delay the Brainstorm until the main phase, but in this case, that probably didn't make a ton of sense. Something that does matter, or it could matter, it's not currently an option, is this deck actually has enough life gain between Uro and Oko, and potentially swordsing our own creatures, that we could actually get ourselves above 20 and be able to survive a Merit Lage hit, which dramatically increases your options for dealing with it when you get to go through your next turn.
Okay. So it looks like Ryan is just trying to figure out, as we've brought up in the past, there's, the access to deck lists and in Legacy in particular, given that, it's not really a 4 of each card format, it makes sense to keep checking and making sure that you know what's going on your opponent's side. Then let's see. What are you, so sorry, you had a plan for this turn, or you were just thinking things through?
I think I'm tempted to just fire off removal. Looks like we're going to play the Oko. That's fine. We're kind of safe this turn from Merit Lage, so we're just going to turn that Safekeeper into a 3/3. That's okay. All right. I think I wouldn't have minded playing the Abrupt Decay on the Safekeeper and see what happened. This is cute. This is something that a rookie player probably would have missed. If you
that's impressive. That's so cool. So we now have 2 Dryad Arbors.
Yeah, so this Oko is going to go down here, which is definitely a nice play, and probably something that Ryan wasn't counting on.
I can tell you I was not counting on that. That is a well seen line for sure. Juko Bog, not always the most relevant, but getting rid of 5 cards here with an Uro in her hand is going to matter. So goodbye those cards. Coming back to our turn, drawing a 4th land. Pretty helpful in this spot, I think. At this point, we have a lot of things we can be doing. So I do like the idea of having access to more mana now.
Right. I do too.
I was going to ask you about Abrupt Decay, but it sounds like we're on the Uro plane instead.
Yeah, given that, again, we don't have to worry about it makes such a difference in how you can play out your turn on whether there's the potential for an instant speed Merit Lage or not. And this turn, again, there is not. So we can do something like play Uro, and even though we don't affect the board at all, that's tolerable in this case.
Okie. So our Uro did not draw another land. But we do have both Swords Up and potentially a Ponder if we wish. Which literally we are deciding. Ryan is trying to figure out, is that something we wish to do? And turns out it is.
Yeah, I was thinking that we were probably going to hold the Ponder as a pitch card for the Force of Negation, but drawing the second Uro means we don't have to worry about that anymore.
Right.
So there we go, and we're passing tapped out. We do have slight interaction, and I guess not slight, it's relevant interaction, but full life total, and Dominic doesn't have a ton threatening right now. There is a Thespian stage on the board in disguise, so we're only 1 card away from me having the possibility of making a Merit Lage.
Okay. How important is this Force of Negation? Like, is the Depths deck not a creature-based deck?
It is. There's definitely some things we wouldn't mind hitting, though. Like, the Crop Rotation, for example, to tutor up the Dark Depths, we could hit that. That's probably the primary target at this point. Okay. I don't remember from the deck list whether Sylvan Library is hanging out or not. I wouldn't be surprised. That would be something I would be willing to counter also.
Okay, so an Elvish Reclaimer is being cast from Dominic Harvey. We do have 1 land in our graveyard. It's a Dark Depths, which also is now in play. So how close are we?
Oh, we're there.
We can flip it now?
Yeah.
Okay, because the Dryad Arbor, the fake Dryad Arbor, can become a Dark Depths instead.
Right. Yeah, so this is certainly not what Ryan is hoping to see. It looks like, I guess if we do the front half of Uro and then Swords of Plowshares, that we could get ourselves well above 20 and survive a hit.
Looks like instead we did opt to cast this Astrolabe.
The Safekeeper, keep in mind, is not a Safekeeper. It's an Elk right now, so it cannot be used to protect the Merit Lage. However, after the untap, the Elvish Reclaimer might be able to do so. So maybe we'll see. It looks like Ryan's mousing over his Abrupt Decay right now. Maybe the Reclaimer is going to be targeted down right now.
Yeah, I wonder if we can quickly pull up Reclaimer on the stream or on the screen just so we refresh our memory, as it is a newer card in general. newish, at least in legacy terms. But it's a pretty cool one for sure.
Yeah, Elvish Reclaimer, yeah. So its sizing isn't terribly relevant in this matchup. It's a 1/2 that can become a 3/4 if there's multiple 3 lands in the graveyard or more. But 2 mana and sacrifice a land to tutor another land into play is the relevant part most of the time for the deck.
Sorry, I want to just quickly talk about what's happening here. The fake Dryad Arbor, aka Thespian Stage, is copying our plains, our snow-covered plains.
Yeah, well, keep in mind, this deck is not a green-black depths deck. It is actually a green-white depths deck splashing black that is actually potentially color screwed right now. So this Thespian Stage Dryad Arbor is actually going to try and fix the color issues at the moment by becoming a plains. And because of that, Ryan might actually be considering Swords of Plastering the Dryad Arbor, which would simultaneously remove the threat of the Merit Lage. This is pretty neat.
That was, sorry, I really just needed to interrupt you because that was so cool. That was not expected. I kind of mapped out like Dark Depths being flipped this turn. We have swords, etc. And no, instead zigged and zagged, as we say. Possibly stopping that Knight of I was going to say Ebon Legion, but that's not the right card. Knight of the Reliquary coming down instead this turn. So we do play another Elvish Reclaimer. So now might be a good time to finish what you were talking about.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and go into something else now. I was going to say, based on that last turn, I think this is now, like we had towards the beginning of the game, where Ryan probably didn't anticipate his Oko dying to the Thespian Stage becoming a Dryad Arbor and attacking. I would guess Dominic didn't expect that last turn to go quite how it ended up going, as he ended up losing a fairly important card there, and now really losing at least one turn of being able to really be threatening, as again, now we're in a spot where we don't have to, from Ryan's side, we don't have to worry about Merit Lage being assembled this turn, and we can feel free to do whatever we want, which in this case might be to run out another Oko.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about this. So we do have access to 4 mana on this turn. We could bring back an Uro, but we wouldn't be tapped out in the sense that we have a Force Negation with the Oko to pitch. But instead we did opt to make the Reclaimer. It looks like we really care. Ryan really cares about keeping all of those value creatures from Dominic's side off their abilities, in this case into Elks.
Yeah, and because we're paying a real price. This time we know the Oko's dying. The previous time we thought it would live, but now we know we're giving it up. And that is a heavy price to pay.
Well, we also gave up the chance to cast Force of Negation.
Yeah, and Ryan really doesn't have anything once his Oko dies. Oh, there is an Uro. You're right.
There's 2 actually, but yeah.
Okay, so that does amount to something. But Uro is not going to hold up well against Merit Lage.
It is not, and we have already burned through 2 swords, so not many left to help us through this problem.
No, this is okay.
This is what you were talking about, right? The Force Negation would be good against crop rotation, but unfortunately we can't cast it. Oh, actually, it was on our Ryan's turn, so we couldn't have cast it anyway. So never mind.
So, okay, Flagstones. That's a nice card to be able to sacrifice to the Reclaimer.
And we finally get our White Saurus.
Yeah, and at this point, I'm not even confident that Dominic's going to need Merit Lage to win the game. He might be able to just aggro out with his creatures. Right,
and Ryan's deck list didn't really see a ton of ways as a sweeper. There is the Snow Sweeper, but I think it's in the sideboard. Or maybe it's not in the deck at all.
Okay.
I can't remember what it's called.
Dead of Winter is the card.
Yeah. So it does not look like we have access to Dead of Winter. So this is really this Uro against the world at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and generally it's not, desirable to use Karakas and bounce Uro, but in this case, when we have a fair amount of creatures opposing it, that might be actually what we see happen.
It's really funny because for a 1-of, we've sure seen this Jace a lot. And we drew it again. So it's not the worst draw on this turn, right? Like passing the turn with an Uro and a Jace, we have to be feeling our cards are at least powerful.
I mean, yeah, this is we can feel like our cards are powerful, but we're going to be shown to be kind of diluted because I think it's very possible we're going to get the turn back with neither one in play.
Yes, that's very fair. The Jace did minus to tuck or at least bounce the knight.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just bounces. So,
right.
And you were right. The Caracas returned the Uro, kind of put all our hard work right backwards there. And I assume the combat will deal with the Jace as well.
Yeah, now we're at a point where with Reclaimer being active, now there's all kinds of possibilities as far as what Dominic can do here. And it looks like Ryan is getting ready to concede the game. And yeah, that's a little preemptive. It's not
the Reclaimer
as bad.
The Reclaimer is not active. It's an elk.
Right. I missed that. Okay, so I caught the Safekeeper. I forgot about the Reclaimer. But you're right.
I'm on elk watch. I got you. I'll let us know. I have to admit, as a 3/3, it's still pretty powerful in this state. So Ryan was contemplating scooping it up, but we decided to keep going. We did draw an Uro for turn, so it could be anything. Let's see what it is. It literally is anything. It's an Astrolab. Throwing that one in.
Yeah,
again, same thing. Could be anything.
Pretty slim here. Okay, still could be anything.
Okay, the Ice Fang Coatl is a way to deal with a big knight, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Depending on how Dominic decides to play out his turn, the Coatl definitely matters. Abrupt Decay matters. Coatl went back.
Okay, right, but we are locked, right? So we don't. Yeah. We are going to draw those cards.
Yeah, and this makes sense because we want to keep the blue card for the Force.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
So we are taking 7. Unfortunately, even after dealing with all that effort, it's still a swing for 7 coming our way. But our graveyard is back up to snuff. Like we're able to cast that Uro again next turn. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, you can just get bounced again by the Caracas. But yeah, we can go Uro. We have Force of Will backup. We can play next turn. We can play the Coatl. We're actually stabilizing the board. And if these Uros, if it wasn't for Dominic's Caracas, then I would say that Ryan actually had got this game under control. But that's a big if because the Caracas is there and is looming for any potential future Uros.
Okay, well, let's draw what I believe will be the Coatl.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like we're opting to cast another Uro from our hand. But we're drawing, I believe, a Force, right? Oh, one of the Forces. The other one, the negation one. So it didn't feel like that was...
So we're we're just trying to get further into the deck, I guess. We're not going to escape the Uro because we know it's going to get bounced. So we're just going to get deeper.
Okay, that makes sense.
Now
Speaking of deeper, we did draw an Astrolab, which costs 2 mana because of our lovely friend Thalia. We do have a land. So we get to cast one of these Forces. We'll see which one.
We can trade off for one of the elk now. Is a group of elk, and a group of elk is an elk. Elk is plural, but is a group of elk referred to something? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I know
you're not sure.
I know.
You made yourself out to be the elk moose.
I did. Unfortunately,
expert.
Unfortunately, I actually do know I was wrong, and no one told me in my ear. It is a gang of elk. No one told me. I promise. I have to admit, I kind of love that because right now we are being ganged up on.
Yeah, and it's actually a card too, so we probably should have been expected to come up with that. I do appreciate that they come up with these things like a murder of crows, which is actually what it's called, and a gang of elk, and whatever the other ones are. I don't even know.
I have referred to moose as meese in this. You
have, and I didn't appreciate that because it's
unfortunately not true. I wish it was true though.
It couldn't possibly be true.
But how good would that be?
I don't know.
A mouse is a mice, a moose is a meese. It makes sense. Come on.
No, it doesn't. I do not accept.
Well, speaking of not accepting, we are about to take a lot of damage, whether we accept it or not. So it looks like Dominic is attacking with the team, including the little Dryad Arbor. I assume a block is being had on one of the elks. Nope, on one of the elk. And it looks like Ryan is taking 5 damage, going down to 7. Sorry, 6 damage, going down to 7. It's exactly what you said, right? Like the threat of that Merit Lage coming into play was always looming, and while it loomed, other creatures came into play, and so that's a pretty tough thing to battle.
No, don't use. Okay, I thought we were using the force of will for a second there. We're using the force of negation. Sorry, I cut you off there.
That's okay.
Yeah. So the force of negation on the zenith does allow us to. Well, we're gonna pump out this Earl again. This is, I mean, like I was saying when we were heading into the last break or whenever that was, Earl and Legacy is not broken. It's fine. And as we see here, this Caracas is just manhandling it.
It's doing a pretty good job. It's funny, we drew Sylvan Library, which I think in this spot could be considered a pretty powerful card. Or sorry, in any other spot it could be powerful, but in this spot it's looking just a little too slow and a little too life costly. So we drew a Force of Will, which just has no action at the moment. I think this might be close to the end of the road for Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, if they're without a Dead of Winter, I mean, because Dead of Winter would clearly be tremendous right now. When the arrow gets bounced, we'll get slugged again for 6 damage. So Sylvan Library, we are going to at least get to look at 3, and then I suppose we could double up Uro Escape and then bring it back again and gain some more life. But really, it feels like we're so close to just, like, if we had a Wasteland for this Caracas or if we had a Sweeper, we would just be fine, but we just don't.
Do we have Wasteland?
I don't think so. Okay. Plague Engineer, that does something.
Okay, is any chance Dryad Arbor and Thalia the same creature type? I don't have faith.
It seems unlikely.
Well, I assume you're happy to name whatever Thalia is. I assume one of them being a human soldier. And then you do get to, well, this isn't actually terrible, right? Like you get to kill Thalia and block the 3/3 with your Death Toucher. Mm-hmm. And I assume we gain some life at some point this turn. This is not over.
No, it's not. And yeah, this is a pretty decent turn as long as we don't get nailed by a crop rotation for a Merit Lage. This looks playable.
That's the terrifying thing, right? This whole time, this deck is playing 2 strategies. One is just play a bunch of random creatures that we're struggling to deal with, and the other one is, oh, by the way, I think we do not have. Okay, there we go.
We have 4 Astrolabes in play. We always have the mana,
but we did have to click it in such a way. But yeah, the other thing is, but here's a card that will just kill you on the spot. So this is a pretty tricky spot for us to be in. If we draw a blue card, hello.
Okay.
Our Force of Will is back on because Thalia has been removed.
This game is ridiculous.
So we're back to being protected again, right?
Yeah, we are. We are protected again. And this is the Uro. Escaped Uros have been bounced, I think, 3 times this game.
Oh, that is something I have not seen in Legacy.
Yeah.
A counter was removed from Dark Depths. I forgot it even had that ability.
Yeah, that's funny. That's not something we see too often. All right, so you're right. We did see the Plague Engineer just trade off with an Elk. And this game is just going to continue on.
You know what's also super interesting? Oh, we're back to that same question: is do we force that Thalia? It looks like we didn't. The Sylvan Library is back in action.
Yeah,
we gained so much life from just rotating through these Uros that we get to actually, if we wanted to, keep a card, which I don't think we're going to, but
no, it's nice to have the option. Okay, looks like.
Yeah, we gotta go to our main phase.
Keep the Ponder. We'll Ponder first just to shuffle. Do we want to Erupt Decay? I think we do not.
Oh, looks like we did. Okay. Or we shuffled and we just drew. No, we did not shuffle. Okay.
This is. I look at this as being fairly questionable, as the Caracas can just save the Thalia here.
Right. It does mean it. Oh, we can't really even bring back an arrow this turn.
Yeah.
Right. We'd have to have had a fetch land, which we don't have. Oh, we do. We have one because we didn't shuffle.
Ooh, our own
but we're shuffling now.
Caracas.
While we might have access to a fetch land, we actually could not fetch anything as there are no more fetchable blue lands left in the deck. But we did draw another Plague Engineer, which is really interesting because there was just that Thalia to deal with, but instead we're going to get a Dryad Arbor, whose creature type is Dryad. Makes sense?
Yeah, okay,
It's more like its creature type is Forest.
Destroyed a land there with our guy, and then another counter comes off manually off the Dark Depths.
Oh, this has been a game, Joe.
Yeah, 24 more mana to go before Mary Lage pops out.
24 more mana. Well, from Ryan's point of view, we have a lot of mana, but I don't think we're going to lend any of it to Dominic.
That's you're right. We need like an annex or something to steal the Dark Depths so we can manually take it down on Ryan's side.
Yeah, look how much mana we have. So honestly, though, this Sylvan Library, I feel like I brought it up being like, oh, this is so slow. It's unfortunate, et cetera, et cetera. And, I was wrong. And I'm happy to be wrong in this spot because I really think that this card is going to get us potentially over the finish line. Who knows? Well, it's 2-2 versus the world right now.
Yeah, it was. And now Dominic, once upon a time, and finds another copy of Thespian Stage. Probably not going to turn this one into a vulnerable Dryad Arbor. And the okay, so we actually find the Swords of Plowshare, so we can handle it. And this game is continuing on.
So I have a question for you. While we've been focusing on all of yeah, there were some spoilers there. Basically, what I was going to bring up was Ryan's deck size was getting quite small. We were at 13 cards in deck. I'm not quite sure what brought in the concession at that spot. But here we are. We're going to sideboarding for game 2. That was quite a long game 1.
Yeah, so really, you're right. So yeah, based on that and what we're looking at, really, I think it's fair to say that Ryan got decked that game, even though he still had 13 cards left. The only copy of Jace was gone. The Earls were proving to be completely ineffective. And so, yeah, that was basically Green White Depths decking their opponent.
Really
obviously, the most common result of the matchup.
I actually really appreciate the ability to see, okay, 13 cards equals I've decked. Like, instead of waiting. I think that's really smart, especially these tournaments do have clocks on their matches. So I'm pretty impressed with that ability to say, okay, I tap out. I'm ready to go to the next game. So Dominic, Harvey, what's happening in our sideboard for this match?
Okay, well, so I'm sure Snowco is a common enough deck, so I'm sure he has a plan for what he wants to be doing here. Thrun the Last Troll is pretty invulnerable to everything besides Dead of Winter, which I believe Ryan is not playing.
Yeah, we confirmed none on the 75, so that sounds like a pretty good threat to bring in. This we're ready to go down to the match, but while we're in the match, I want to talk a little bit about Sylvan Library. Do you think Dominic, is that slow enough? Like, is this match slow enough where he would want that advantage?
Yeah, I think it is. I think there's some cards here that you could. It's just a matter of you have enough cards to bring in, you have enough cards to take out, and I think some things can be trimmed here. I don't know that Thalia does a whole lot here. I mean, it was kind of a hindrance occasionally, but I don't think that Ryan particularly cares about it, especially with Plague Engineer in the deck. Although those themselves might go out. So I think that Dominic has a few cards he can bring out, so I wouldn't be surprised if his Sylvan Libraries did make their way into the deck.
So we kept this opening hand. I wasn't feeling it super great. Like, I don't know. It has some lands. It has some spells that we can't currently cast. I don't know. How do you feel about this opening hand?
You were right. It is not. I mean, my friends that I play with online that watch me play sometimes, they kind of not always in love with my mulligan decisions, and particularly mentioning, you're keeping hands with so many cards you can't cast. And Ryan, obviously in the same boat as me, he kept a hand where you can't actually cast anything except Swords of Plowshares, I guess. The Caracas does deal with the Thalia just fine, and we have the Force Will, so we have protection. But boy, we really want to build long-term advantage, and that's just not something we're getting started on.
Here's the issue. Not only do we need to build long-term advantage, we also the way that this tournament works is we are using Moto clocks, which for casual play is 40 minutes, but we are sticking to a regular clock timeline. So these players will actually time out at 15 minutes remaining on their clock, which does mean Ryan has under 10 minutes to win not only this match with the hand that can't currently cast a lot of things, but also the next game as well. So there's a lot to process here, and could be a reason why we just kept the hand that we just had to keep and kind of make some actions.
Maybe, but even this isn't even a slow hand, and we can't even. Yeah, what do we even fetch for here? I actually disagree with fetching there. I don't think we can afford to do that.
Well, luckily we didn't get too punished because we did draw the forest, right, which does turn on actually a ton of our hand. Not quite Oko yet because of Thalia, but
yeah, that wasteland picking off.
Caracas, I didn't even see that.
Yeah, it was a big deal, and so we're on. Yeah, I feel like in Ryan's spot, you have to hold on to that Prismatic Vista until you draw the other of blue or green mana, and did it preemptively and got away with it. But I think that was a pretty dangerous decision there. It is frustrating too, having Swords of Plowshares, that you there's no way you can fetch white because that leaves you short both of your main colors.
Yeah, especially like with Caracas, our hand was like, okay, well we can cast Swords, but that didn't end up happening. So this Sylvan Safekeeper is being Force of Will, usually probably pitching as guest in Icefang Coatl. So let's see. So that, obviously there's not a big counter war in this matchup.
Right.
Though Veil of Summer, I think Dominic has access to, but I'm not sure.
So this is that's a play that I do not like the way that this was played out by Ryan. I think you have a cantrip in your hand. I think it costs you nothing to play it first before the Force of Will, because maybe you'll change your mind on what you want to do. So
these Plague Engineers, by the way, are coming up clutch. Like,
they are.
This is kind of crazy that we get to get another Thalia with this Plague Engineer, and we have a decent blocker. We can start getting aggressive. That was a huge draw.
Yeah, that really kind of saved our position there. That was significant. But yeah, so I feel like, back to what I was saying, if we played the Coatl first and drew the Plague Engineer, maybe we still Force the Will the Safekeeper, but maybe we don't. And there's really no reason not to give ourselves access to all the information we can before making up our mind.
Well, as much as that Plague Engineer was a great draw, a sideboard card that you highlighted from Dominic did come into play, and that is Thrun. That spell cannot be countered, has hexproof, so cannot be elked, and it can be regenerated for, I believe, 1 green. Yeah, or 1 and a green, sorry. So that Death Touch from the Plague Engineer will also not matter. This is going to be rough. Like, we actually kind of stabilized from our medium start with our hand to we're going to have some trouble with this Thrun.
Yeah, we are. I mean, Oko is going to allow us to battle against it for quite a long time, being able to make food or just gain life. But yeah, I'm not sure anything in Ryan's deck can stop this.
Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time. That's also the big issue here.
Yeah, but just looking at this board state, Ryan getting out of this game by itself is gonna be tough. And I would say, just a testament to the power of Thrun the Last Troll. It's Thrun versus different Death Touch creatures and a Planeswalker that's considered very good, and multiple other relevant spells in the hand, and yet the Thrun might be ahead of all of that by itself.
That's wild. Okay, well, we do see a Thrun attacking, and we do see a predictable block by the Icefang, and of course the 2 mana spent for regeneration. Not an effect that is present nowadays. I believe they've kind of really changed that style of things. Regeneration has some extra words that people don't know about. Like it does tap it, right? Mm-hmm. Is that how that works?
Yeah. When anytime a creature it is regenerated from destruction, it does tap. Not going to come up here, and we actually, given all of the cards in Ryan's hand, he might actually be able to erase the Thrun. That might be his best way to go here, is to try and just attack, and go back and forth with it, and see if that can make things work. And also since the clock matters, trading damage is probably in Ryan's interest.
It does feel a little tough to say yes, let's race with 1/1s in our hands, but we do have Oko, so that's a secret way of attacking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe send in for 5 this turn, and then we can chump with the Quaddle, play Astrolabe, and go from there.
I just got really excited because I think we're about to own a Dryad Arbor.
No, really?
Yep.
You are correct.
I don't know if it's good, but I got really excited about it. We are now a proud owner of this Dryad Arbor. That's something.
Yeah.
You seemed shocked when I brought that up.
I am surprised. Wow, we didn't attack.
Wait, why didn't we attack? We have the Ice Fangs. That was surprising.
Yeah. So I feel like whether or not stealing the Dryad Arbor makes sense. Which I mean, Dominic is missing land drops, so fine. But I don't know why the Plague Engineer didn't attack because I don't think it's blocking.
Shouldn't block. At least not yet. Oh, the one thing that's super... I just didn't even really think about this with Plague Engineer, but it locks out future Thalias too, which is pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. So that Plague Engineer is valuable for sure. As predicted, the Ice Fang jumped in, grabbed a Brainstorm, and I assume we'll be blocking because our Oko seems pretty valuable. Predictable run regeneration. So I actually am starting to see your plan. I understand with what you're saying now. Like we actually have some pretty aggressive creatures that can keep attacking. The issue is at the moment is we're not attacking.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because Dominic's mana is somewhat taxed by having to regenerate Thrun every turn he attacks. That's another reason for taking the Dryad Arbor, but I don't get. The not taking the Plague Engineer is just we have to just assume that that's just a mistake because there doesn't seem to be any real justification for it.
Looks like we are playing our third actually Ice Fang Quaddle, which is our last chance to block that Thrun for now. We did draw a pretty decent card. I hear it's okay.
Yeah.
Oh no, I heard a fair card. Sorry, we drew a very fair card in Uro.
Uro is definitely going to be useful here as there's not a Crocus on the other side yet, but the
Abrupt
more
Decay,
significant.
though,
yeah, get rid of that.
Was a good draw.
We've got to be animating something here now with the Oko. We got to be pushing damage through. We're at 6 minutes left for Ryan for this game and the next game, and that's not impossible, but it's tough, and we need to be pressing. Even if we're taking risks, we need to be pressing to get damage through.
Yeah. Hopefully, so it looks like Oko is going up on the Dryad Arbor. Nope, hold on, I got excited. Sorry. Looks like it did go up on the Astrolabe, going in with 6 power of creatures. Little zigged and zagged there. Going for the last kind of chance to block this Thrun with a Death Toucher. And again, taxing.
Oh, no.
Wait. What does this do?
Sejiri Step gives land, gives protection from a caller until the end of the turn, which is going to cost the Oko. So the Oko is going to go down here. Also, this preserves Dominic's mana for the turn because he doesn't have to spend 2 mana to regenerate. So he's free to do whatever else he's got. The Uro can come back and stay in play as long as there's not something pesky like a Knight of the Reliquary to, I don't know, search up a Caracas, unfortunately.
Well, that was a draw and a half.
Okay, so the deck is definitely helping out a little bit.
Well, it's helping out us too. So
for Ryan to try and stay in this game.
Hey Joe, do you see what tapped over there? Look at that Dryad Arbor paying attention, getting some green mana for us, for Ryan.
That was the plan, huh? That's pretty good. Looking 3 turns in advance and realizing, I gotta get this Dryad Arbor going on my side of the board. Another Abrupt Decay is drawn, and we'll keep on attacking. And
we're going in for another 6 here, down to 8. Dominic's down to 8, and then this Uro can block the Thrun all day long. That I know. 6/6 beats the 4/4. Should it not have protection again, but.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say Ryan, another Reclaimer, but Ryan has the ability to kill that. Ryan is looking very likely to win this game.
Is it enough is the issue.
Yeah, I mean, we're down to, what do we have, 4.5 minutes left on his clock, which is unfortunate. It kind of feels bad sometimes, when you see someone lose on time playing online, but I'm not bothered by it too much because it is, both players have access to the same clock, and you're just responsible for doing stuff, and if you can't get it done, then that's kind of on you. And here's the reclamation stage as just a creature, as the astrolabe has been elked, and as I'm sure you are thrilled about, elks have protection from artifacts, or elks aren't artifacts.
Does this back to B6? This is pretty impactful, right?
Yeah, it actually matters. It's going to really eliminate Thrun's ability to regenerate.
Yeah. Wow, Ryan is doing a good job drawing cards, as any Magic player should, to be fair. But this is going to be close. This is cool.
Yeah, I think Ryan has done it. I think Ryan has won this game, and because the back to basics is going to completely wipe out Dominic, who will be working with one forest next turn.
So I assume these Misty Rainforests can't get anything otherwise. Well, it didn't really matter anyway. Yeah,
it's possible that they're whiffs at this point in the game. Also, it's not worth the 5 seconds that Ryan would spend to actually, use them.
I do agree with that. Okay, so we actually do have the ability to generate with that Cavern of Souls, correct? At least once.
This turn, we could regenerate once, yes. However, we are empty-handed and down the board. Ryan needs to just attack here and get this game over with.
Oh, the Dryad Arbor doesn't untap. Sorry, I just realized.
It did its job.
It did.
It actually did. It actually attacked for several damage and was useful for mana a few times, kind of justifying its existence, and sacrificing the food buys another turn. That is not good for... I mean, it's only going to cost Ryan probably 10 seconds or less, but that matters.
So I was going to talk to you. You talked a little bit about how you feel about timing out. And I think I agree with you, because we're heading back to us for a second while players take a second. When you're playing on the clock like that, you got to take a moment, get ready for the next game. I think Ryan has somewhere around 3 minutes to win. It took them 8 minutes to win this game, or maybe 7 or 8 minutes to win this game. And that was good. We pushed a lot of pressure. So 3 minutes might be tough, but we'll see. Our opponent can always mulligan to 3.
Yeah, are there Tarmogoyfs in Ryan's board, perhaps? Again?
Unless you mean elks? No.
Oh.
We saw briefly.
Elks are going to have to be able to take... Garrick Primal Hunter, let's go.
Oh. Could we bring it in? Oh, that would be so good.
I mean, Garrick Primal Hunter can do... If we bring up Garrick Primal Hunter, I believe the ultimate is you get a 6/6 for each land you have. And it did come in.
It's in the deck. This is amazing.
The plate. Oh, okay. Those are extra plate engineers. Yeah. So let's go ahead and bring up Garrick Primal Hunter, which makes 3/3s, I believe, on the plus end. And I think the ultimate is a 6/6 for each land you have. And the reason I remember that is because, and the reason why I have fond memories of Garrick Primal Hunter is I actually got the ultimate Garrick Primal Hunter of my opponents with Zealous Conscripts way back in the day. Wow. And that was delightful. And
there
here we have a look at it.
-6, create a 6/6 green worm creature token for each land you control. It's not even a big ultimate, it's a repeatable ultimate potentially. Okay, so Ryan did keep a hand after mulliganing to 6. So our hand is double Abrupt Decays, little Icefang Coatl, and some mana fixing. Not the most powerful kill you in 3 minutes start that I've ever... 2 minutes? 3 minute start that I've ever seen, but... Yeah. Math is hard. But here we are. We're protected from everything Dominic could do in the early turns, which is better than last game. Last game, we were really kind of exposed for a while, but we managed to rally through.
Mm-hmm. Now, do we not kill that Sylvan Library because we want Dominic to spend life? I think that's reasonable.
I was wondering. I'm not sure. Again, the thing about playing at a clock like this is you just don't have the time to process the ifs and maybes. You sort of just have to do your first instinct. And I agree. That was my first instinct as well there. So it's going to be a different game than if this was fresh clocks. So
yeah. Although, and Dominic, though, is obviously a very sharp player, and he's aware of everything that's going on. So he may not have drawn cards off his own library anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so we do have an Elvish Reclaimer coming into play. We have currently a way to deal with that with... So we are using swords here. Was there any kind of understanding to keep the swords for that threat of the Dark Depths, or no?
No, I like it. I like using the swords because we may as well swords a small creature so less life is gained. And if we have to swords a Merit Lage and Dominic gains 20 life, I don't think Ryan's gonna be able to win anyway.
Fair enough. Speaking of maybe not being able to win anyway, this run did come down on time, and our hand, while fantastic in other ways, cannot deal with it. So we do have an Oko, but we don't have a way of protecting our Oko unless we make the Astrolabe artifact.
Oko gains so much loyalty; it can protect itself for a turn.
That's true. I totally forgot. Wow, it's at 6 loyalty already.
Yeah, the card is
what a card.
A little bit insane. All right, so we're down, but this is, I mean, Throne is, like we discussed last game, a huge threat. Ryan's on 2 minutes as an uncastable Force of Will plus some removal in hand, but more importantly, just doesn't have threats.
So this feels like a Knight of the Reliquary coming in. Which we do, as you said, have ways of dealing with that. It's actually not big at all, though there is a fetch land around should it need to be. Oh, okay.
Yeah, back to basics.
Cast that one this turn.
Is really relevant, though.
So looks like we'll deal with the Knight, turn our Elk into a food, and I imagine this time we'll attack with the Elk, leaving the Ice Fang back.
Yeah, you were right. Okay, so there is a route to victory here. If Front regenerates and Back to Basics comes down and Dominic gets stuck, there's enough time for this 3-3 to end the game. Okay. I don't know if that's likely, but it is at least possible.
Does the plan start with Dominic fetching now? Oh, speaking of which, grabbing no basic there is good for our plan, right?
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Okay. Also, whenever players turn off their auto yields, I always concede. What? So quick. Okay, so we have a Plague Engineer coming in. Looks like we.
Whoa! Oh no! So
okay.
Doing that preserves the Oko, but if we let that come into play and swords it, it's tough. It's tough no matter how you figure it. But
it's tough and you have 12 seconds to decide.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so we did end up drawing our card for turn, which is an Uro, not a bad draw. But we're out of ways to protect this protect the Oko for now.
So the Astrolabe comes in here. Dominic falls to 10, which is, concerning life total, I guess.
Unfortunately, this Oko is at 4, and the Thrun is a 4/4. So, say goodbye to our Oko friend. I guess if Dominic has absolutely nothing on this turn, we get to tack in for 6, which happened for what it's worth.
Yeah.
That's pretty close. We have 1 minute.
We do have, so if Dominic has nothing, this is going to be a Dryad Arbor coming out potentially. It is.
We swords this?
Oh, we definitely could. Okay, so now with Ice Fang, so we can get in for presumably 4 next turn, then we need 2 more attacks. Ryan really needs to be automating these effects like that Dark Depths activation. That just needs to be right-clicked and then yielded to.
It's so tricky because that takes time too. Yeah. And so you're processing, I've been in this spot before. It's rough. Yeah. However they play it is up to them. It's just a really tough thing. Okay. We can't actually cast that in our current mana. Now we can. Let's see. So we tack in and lose a creature, falling our opponent down to 2.
Right.
Oh, wait. Oh, no. Yeah, we still lose a creature, but we do make our throne smaller. It's not super relevant, but... Okay, let's attack in. This is close. I'm like literally leaning forward with like my face on the monitor. Like I'm so excited. This for everyone that is following along at home, just so you know, this is our last match, which, you know, would kind of make sense. So I have to admit, well done picking this match to watch because it's been pretty exciting and it really filled the full hour.
Oh my gosh!
What? Ryan won!
Ryan
Dominic
wins. Wow.
Dominic didn't draw anything. Welcome back. Sorry, we're so excited. That was wild.
That was amazing. That was, I mean, we didn't agree with everything he chose to do, and he may not even either on rewatching because he wasn't having time to think about stuff, but pitching the back to basics and letting the Dryad Arbor chump block and all the different choices that were made there, and it worked out. He wins the game.
The pitching the back to basics, we couldn't even begin to tell you what was happening. It happened so quickly. Like, to me, that said that Ryan had decided, I am forcing anything that impacts the board. I'm not thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's
impressive. that was super cool. That is the conclusion of round 3, and that is also the end of Caroline's morning with us. So, Caroline, thank you very much for being here. It was a good time having you here. I'm sorry we didn't get to talk more about you, but we had backup matches, and obviously things just ran on. Is there anything you want to say, any activities you're into that you want to promote yourself for before we let you go here?
Sure, yeah. I do stream weekly over on my Twitch channel at the twitch.tv/themightylinguini. I will say it's not always Legacy, though. Sometimes, you know, I bring on someone like Jarvis to play some Legacy with me. My Twitch channel is really geared around having a guest, having a friend on and playing something, either Magic or any other game. So definitely a lighthearted as opposed to this little bit competitive Legacy stream, but feel free to come by and check us out.
Is it Mighty Linguini, the same as your Twitter handle that they say on
there's a the. So it's actually twitch.tv/themightylinguini.
Man, something I wanted to talk to you about too was if we had time, which we don't, it was the difference between like nicknames and screen names, because like there's no way that your friends walk up to you and be like, "Hey, Mighty Linguini, how's it going?"
It has happened. Streaming has allowed for that a little bit more.
Okay.
Because people only know you, you know, as your Twitch thing. But anyway, it was really great hanging out with you, by the way, Joe. Maybe you'll have to bring me back so you can talk more things. I think we might have to do that. Anyway, we'll be back in a few. This will be a little bit longer break as we switch Honorog in place of Caroline. But we'll be back in a few minutes, maybe like 10, for round 4. So thanks for being with us. We'll be here all day, and we'll catch you on the